Hi everyone, thanks very much for tuning in again today. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been interviewing a few experts that have been sharing their tips and tricks for the SEND community whilst in lockdown and going forward. Now today I've got the pleasure of interviewing Rachael because she is an expert about autism, and the reason for that is her son Adam has it. So what better way to speak to another mum that can help us understand a little bit more. So over to you, Rachael. Tell us what you know.
No pressure.
Not at all.
Yeah, so so I started off basically when I was in uni. I started off working with children with special needs every school holiday, not knowing how much that was going to come in handy. Like, I think it was like 15 years on. Yeah, I taught for 20 years. We had a high number of children with autism in the nursery class that I taught. So that did give me some grounding before Adam was born. But nothing can prepare you for the emotions you go through when you know that there's something wrong with your child. And pregnancy was normal. Adam reached all his milestones up until about the age of 3. And from that time on, he started showing things like he would flap. If we were at mother and toddlers, he would go around and check all the fire extinguishers. And at that time, he was talking quite a lot. And so much so that the other parents at mother and toddlers were comparing their children to Adam because his vocabulary was pretty impressive and his counting skills. My mum lived in a house with 13 steps, and he would count the 13 steps going up. But over the next few months, all that disappeared, all like went. And at that time, I just had a new baby who wasn't sleeping. So he was born August 28th. Adam was due to start nursery 2 weeks later. And I think little by little over that nursery year, his skills disappeared completely. And I was already emotional. You know what you like as a new mum, you're not getting any sleep. And I could see these signs, like he would run around in a circle in nursery. He wasn't really interacting with the other children. And I remember saying to the teacher, do you think there's something wrong? And I could see by her face that she was like, oh, I'm glad you noticed, because I didn't want to bring it up. And I was completely devastated. I couldn't believe this was happening. Like, my child, who would not stop talking, was now barely saying a single word. And I mean, even if he wanted a yogurt from the fridge, he wasn't even asking for it anymore. He would just like go and get it. Our conversations were like, zero. All the other children would come out of nursery and they'd be talking and chatting away to their parents. And Adam wouldn't say a single word all the way home in the car. He would be humming or smiling to himself, but there would be nothing. And it got so heartbreaking that I stopped talking to him because I couldn't cope with him not answering back. So I get really emotional talking about it. But it was difficult.
I can only imagine, because for the first 3 years, you've got your child developing at, typical skills and actually even progressing, and being, a talk, and then all of a sudden it's just gone. And I seriously can't imagine what was going through your head.
Yeah. Oh, and we saw the doctors. We actually got to see to the paediatrician, and it was like she didn't believe us. Even though we had his red book that you get from the health visitor to say there were no concerns and that he was meeting all his milestones, it was basically implied that he'd always had autism and that we just hadn't noticed. And I left so many appointments crying, and like I'd walked out, and some appointments they try and assess Adam and they try and make it fit. Like they'd say he lined up his cards, which he didn't. And it was almost like they wanted him just to be labelled autistic, and then they could say, right, he's autistic, here we go, you just go and get on with your life, and I wasn't accepting that. I was a nursery teacher. I'd seen autism become more obvious when children start nursery because they're interacting with other children, but I'd never heard of anyone losing their skills, so it's been a long fight. We're still fighting for answers. I mean, only now the paediatrician has agreed to do an MRI scan to see whether there was any brain damage that occurred at that time. but we've had to pay privately to see a top neurologist to basically order them to do that, because there's never been any answers. And I mean, I'm not denying that he does have a lot of autistic traits.
Yeah.
But to me, how it came about, it just doesn't make sense in my head. And we're still looking for answers. We still want to know what happened at that time to make him lose all his skills. You know, because it was almost like he'd had a stroke.
Yeah.
And if it was adults this had happened to, they would be doing every test going to find out what had happened, you know? So
yeah, it's unusual for someone to just lose the skills. And did it only happen when he started nursery? Nothing had happened like that summer?
He used to get a lot of tonsillitis constantly and bowel problems. And I did wonder whether it was connected to his health in some way. He'd started flapping and making noises, but at that point he was still communicating. So they were little gradual signs, and I think over that year in nursery, that's when it sort of like went downhill and he lost most of his skills. But it was gradual over that year. And I think because we had a new baby, it was difficult to pinpoint when, really, because you're so tired, you're just surviving. So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster.
And I mean, the one thing I always advocate is that every child is different anyway. So, you know, Ellie has Down syndrome, but she's completely different to her peers. So it must be even more difficult for you. You know, like you say, you've probably not heard of any, maybe many children, even with autism, that have had this regression. So how have you managed it from him being 3 to, I mean, how old's Adam now?
He's 15 now.
15, so, you know, 12 years. How has Adam progressed in these 12 years?
We sorted out we got him support in school. We didn't go for the autism diagnosis. What we went for, we put on an IEP at the time, was his lack of social skills, his lack of language skills. He's got hypermobility as well, which makes it difficult. He can't even like use a pencil to write his name. He wasn't using an iPad up until about 3 years ago because he couldn't make that connection. You know, his fingers weren't strong enough to like connect with the iPad. So we focused mainly on improving all his skills rather than focusing on it being autism. We just wanted every skill to progress. And up until about the age of 9, he went to a fantastic primary school, couldn't do enough for him. But he wasn't making that progress. You know, the information that was coming from the educational psychologist tends to be one size fits all. You know, and they use the same methods of doing things. And Adam wasn't responding. He wasn't particularly motivated. He was making little progress, but not massively. And then when he was about 9 or 10, I discovered ABA therapy. And I'd seen it on one of the Autism Mum sites. And there was a family from Scotland, and she had twin boys. And she would make the journey down from Scotland to West Wales to have ABA therapy for her sons. And I was following her page and the progress, and I was thinking, to make this massive journey with 2 autistic children, there's got to be something in ABA. There just has to be. And the speech therapist had said to me, oh, you don't want to be doing that. It's really stressful, and it's got, you know, this bad reputation and all of this. But I kept seeing this family pop up, and I thought, I've got to look into this. I've got to find out what it's all about. And I remember the therapist coming the first time, and Adam was just stood at the window flapping. He was watching the tree outside and just spent the whole time flapping. And she didn't put any pressure on him whatsoever. She got out some sort of toys. They were spinning and flapping toys, and practically ignored Adam. And he suddenly started to get really interested. And he wandered over and started like interacting at a basic level with her. And I was thinking, God, he's never done this before. Whenever we've gone to like see the speech therapist, he's just zoned out completely and not cooperated. But he was suddenly interested. And ABA works very much on doing small tasks that are taught and you get rewarded. And Adam gets to choose his reward, like he gets to go on the trampoline or go for a walk or use the iPad. And little by little, he was completing these tasks and getting these rewards, and he was enjoying them so much that he didn't even want the rewards. So we were going longer and longer before he needed to be rewarded for what he was doing. And I know there's a lot of criticism. People say that you're getting your child to conform, but in our case, that wasn't why we were doing ABA. We did the ABA to teach Adam all his language skills. Now Adam can actually tell us what he'd like. He can make comments about things. He can snitch on his brother, that sort of thing that he couldn't do before. And to us, that's massive. And without ABA, he wouldn't have been able to do that, you know? So
I was just going to ask you, do you put all that down then to the ABA therapy and obviously work you've done?
yes, I mean, it helped that we helped to improve his health. So we see a homeopath, and she helped him with his stomach issue, because he was very skinny, not absorbing any vitamins or minerals, and he had this massive distended tummy. And we'd gone down the route. We even went to a top children's hospital, and they couldn't really do anything. So we see a homeopath now, and he has a complete, if you look at Adam, he's got like a six-pack. He's got a completely flat stomach now, you know. So we had to work on his health problems and get him in sort of a good state to be in that position to want to take on new skills and new tasks as well. So it's been a big thing. We've improved his health, and we've given him opportunities as well to improve his skills at the same time. So I think it's all worked together to help him.
And I think it's fantastic. And I've got a horrible feeling that a lot of these therapies, you know, hasn't been, you know, given to you on a plate.
Yeah. Well, when we discovered ABA therapy, we started off funding it ourselves, and it was costing about £10 an hour. But then you have to pay for the consultant to come out and write a complete program, and they're writing an individual program for your child. So it is quite intense. And then we were discharged by speech therapy and occupational therapy 3 times on both occasions. So we had to go privately there as well. So we funded it ourselves for a while. We remortgaged the house. And then when we ran out of money, my friend said to me one night, how about fundraising? And I was like, oh, I can't do that. That is just so embarrassing. I just can't do it. And after a few glasses of wine, I was thinking, you just got to get over yourself. Adam needs this support. You need to do it. So I launched it one Friday night after half a bottle of wine. We did a GoFundMe page. And I was so pleased with how many people wanted to help Adam and were just looking for this opportunity to help. And we did lots of fundraising events, brought us all together, like quiz nights. The children in his school came to the local supermarket and did bag packing. I mean, they were the biggest fans. They were telling everyone at Tesco how good ABA had been for Adam, and that's why they were helping him to get funding to be able to do it. So we got the funding through fundraising, and we had so much evidence then, we were able to take it to the authority. We had to go to a very costly tribunal, which cost about £10,000, and say, look, this is the only thing that's working for my child. He needs this full time. And luckily, we won the tribunal. So Adam is now at our local secondary school, and he has a one-to-one ABA therapist with him, who happens to be his teaching assistant from primary school, who loves him, you know, like he's like one of her own children. So it's worked out really well. But now he's 15, we're coming on to the next stage of the fight, you know, starts all over again.
Yeah, the joys of Pip. It's absolutely remarkable, you know, what you've done. And I know every parent, you know, does what they can for their child, and certainly when they've got additional needs. But, you know, you have really done it, which is just so impressive. You know, the crowdfunding, researching the therapies and fighting for it. What's the future for you and Adam now, Rachael?
It's very difficult because where we live in South Wales, there's not much on offer for children, for young adults with autism. And because Adam has hypermobility, for those of you who don't know, he's got very loose finger joints. So doing practical skills is very difficult. So there's not really an educational establishment or college that really sort of fits his needs. So I've got this dream. I've seen this business for sale where it's a series of lodges for families with special needs children to come on holiday, where the children can make as much noise and have as many meltdowns as they like without people judging. And I was hoping that Adam and other adults like him can come and work along there. So even if it's like maintaining the hot tubs or cutting the grass, so that he can be like in a safe environment where he's going to be nurtured and learn new skills and be happy, really, because Adam loves being outdoors. So being like somewhere confined, he's not going to enjoy that. So I just want him to be outdoors and like meeting people and being happy, really. I mean, that's all we want for our children, is to be happy and healthy, just like any other parent. So yeah, that's my big dream, and we're putting things in place for that to happen. So
I have no doubt that that will happen. So if anybody wants to speak to you about your journey, you know, the ABA therapy, or your future plans, where can they get hold of you, Rachael?
We've got a page. It's called Adam's Adventures Through Autism. I offer lots of support on there. We just sort of like stepped it up again because I realised that people need lots of support, and support is so expensive. So I invite people like yourself, other special needs parents, experts to come into the group and give lots of free advice. And I've also got a little group just for special needs parents to come and have a little rant in a safe place, because we all know how difficult it is. And I think only other special needs parents understand how you feel at certain times, you know.
Absolutely. Well, if you could send those links to me when we share this, we will get those links so people can reach out if they want to. Well, thank you very much, Rachael, for taking time out today. It's been amazing to listen to you and, you know, hear what you've gone through. But I think, you know, it's also shown some light, because I've heard some stories about ABA therapy, and I think what you've just shared is, you know, it does work for some children, so don't rule it out. So
yeah, and it's not up for us. I think that the main fear is about getting your child to conform, and we're not talking about children who've got Asperger's and we're trying to get them to fit into society. We're talking about children who have very little language skills, who are still in nappies at age 7, you know, and just learning the basic skills and giving them motivation to learn. It's not about changing personalities. I love my son's personality. I wouldn't change it for the world. So yeah, just I'm encouraging people to look into therapies before they make, you know, a decision about it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for your time, Rachael, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, thank you.